Hi, everybody. This is Brian Spann with Spann Man Media, and I am here today at Chiropractic Nutrition Center at 270 Cornerstone Drive, is it?
Yes.
In Cary, North Carolina. And I'm here with one of the greatest chiropractors in the world because I feel like a different person. And I'm talking about the person of Dr. Robert Baric. Dr. Baric, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Brian.
I said today that I wanted the world to know who you are and what you do. Just to give you a little background, I met Dr. Baric at a home and garden show about 2 years ago. And little did I know, after winning a raffle to come in and get an exam and an x-ray, that I still had whiplash from 1991. Now, at the time of meeting Dr. Baric, that was back in 2022, actually 2023. And so I had a 32-year-old whiplash I knew nothing about. And so after finally coming in after a year, Dr. Baric was able to get this body back in some kind of shape, where I sleep better. I actually feel better when I'm driving. I don't feel the shoulder blade issues. So after the great treatment that I received, I felt that it was just right to talk about the services and the person behind the services. So Dr. Baric, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what inspired you to get into chiropractic service?
Sure. Thanks, Brian. So I started in 1995 and have been in solo practice the entire time, had multiple associate doctors. And I guess my secret sauce is first of all, everybody's treated like family, number one. And number two, what's the cause of somebody's problem? And in Brian's case, as he had mentioned, there was a good chance that it was from an old injury that just wasn't treated right. In auto accident cases, it happens very frequently that somebody's involved in an auto accident case, there's an 87% chance of permanent problems starting 7 years later. So the odds are extremely high. And when we have an injury, that it did not heal correctly. So why do I do this? I do this because basically you have one car that you have to drive around in the rest of your life. And we all know somebody who's 85 and 90 and doing everything, and we have somebody who's much younger and can barely move because of joint injuries and back issues, etc., etc. And of course, what does the spine and nervous system control? It controls everything. It controls your heart and your muscles and your joints and your everything inside your body. So that communication needs to be as best as possible. And our mega complicating factor is we're only aware of about 0.5% of our nervous system.
Yes, sir.
So how's your right kidney today, and your gallbladder and your liver and your ovaries or wherever, what part of your body, we don't know. But as long as the brain and that part of that organ is able to communicate, you age slower. Because what's the goal? The goal is, I tell people, the good news, bad news. The good news, you're going to live a long time. The bad news, you're going to live a long time. And are you going to be the healthy, active one that's hiking when you're in your 70s, 80s, and 90s?
Yes,
or are you going to be the one that's going to be barely can feed themselves because of metabolic or health issues that weren't treated when they were little?
Wow. So chiropractic or chiropractic services is more than just back cracking.
Well, correct. So the spine and nervous system control everything. That's like the cable. That's the housing of the fiber optic cable that runs the body. But you got to look at what you put in here too, and we have to look at what's around us. What is our stress levels? What is our ergonomics? So again, I kind of look at it as a little bit of a car mechanic. Well, the car's making a noise,
Yes, sir.
but why? Why is it making that noise? And let's face it, medication can be phenomenal, but at the same time, when used inappropriately or to treat a symptom, it's basically, think of it as your smoke alarm starts chirping at 2 a.m, so you go down and take the battery out.
Yes.
Well, maybe it's telling you something, and if it's telling you something that you're not supposed to, you got to deal with it, and it's super important to get out of symptoms, but it's even more important to keep the body moving as best as possible, because then it doesn't age, or it ages much slower.
So Dr. Baric, I said that being a chiropractor is more than just cracking backs and necks.
Correct.
You're dealing with the central nervous system as well. Am I correct?
Correct.
Now, aren't there two parts of the nervous system, the central and
the peripheral?
Peripheral.
Basically inside the head and then outside of the head.
And one affects the other. Am I correct?
Correct.
And so you offer services that go beyond, I guess, the average thinking of what a chiropractor does. Can you tell us about the other service that you do?
So, thank you. So several years ago, 8 years ago, I had a challenge. My mother had a stroke, and she was in her late 70s at the time, and lost a lot of mobility. A year after, I think she was 78 at the time, had a stroke. 1 year after, I was able, my siblings said I could start working with her. After we went to all the local best rehab facilities that you've all heard of, she still had great limitations. So she couldn't walk without a walker. She couldn't care for herself, feed herself, shower, wipe herself, stuff like that, dress herself. So I reached out to the smartest people I knew of stroke rehab, and they said to look into neurofeedback. Now, neurofeedback, what about this? Where does this come from? So this started all 1965 with NASA. The astronauts were having seizures around the rocket fuel. And basically everything is based on data. In neurofeedback, you put a cap on your head, and we do a thing called a QEEG. So we gather 20,000 data points. With that data, now, just like Google Maps or Waze, we know how to navigate the brain. We know where the bridge is out. We know where the wrecks are. We know where the icy patches are. And with that data, going back to my mother, I was able to get 1 year of almost an 80-year-old post-stroke to be able to walk without a walker,
Wow.
to dress herself, to feed herself, to care for herself in the bathroom. I mean, she felt phenomenal, right? She was able to now do these simple things. And as we all know from a stroke, especially as you're older, a year after the stroke, the honeymoon's over. You've gotten all the quick recovery. That also led to, well, what else can neurofeedback do? And then another dear friend, his child was on a medication at the time, and the medication was giving some very undesirable side effects, but it was helping one thing, but it was breaking another. And sadly, that child, the side effects caused that child to take their own life. And, that was my wake-up call of saying, hey, what is inside his head? How do we go and optimize his function with a very data pragmatic approach? Neurofeedback, 1965, I then went and got my board certification in that. Currently, we're the largest clinic in North and South Carolina. So we see hundreds of people. We have people flying from all around the world. We can remote train. And the big conditions we see are ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression, insomnia, peak performance. So there are just so many conditions that when the brain is out of tune, we need to tune it up. And we need to have a methodical, logical basis for it. And it's all based on principles we know: operant conditioning, behaviorism, puppy training. You may learn how to ride a bike. Well, that's called neuroplasticity. That's burning these new pathways into your head, and we have the ability to do that with very high success of the people that we accept. Why is that critical factor, Brian? You have 4 brains in your body. You have a right brain, a left brain, a thyroid, and a gut. And your brain weighs less than 1% of your body, but consumes 25% of your calories. And if your gut's not right and your thyroid's not right, your brain's not getting enough energy, and all your happy hormones are coming out of your gut. So we have to look at all 4 brains. And I think that's where the blend, the chiropractic says, hey, the body's complex and connected, and it's not just a brain issue. It's just not a Prozac deficiency or an anti-anxiety med or an ADD med deficiency.
Yes, sir.
So, that's why we can get really great results with a lot of people, but we have a very stringent filter to make sure that they're going to get the results. If they're spending time and money, I want them to be happy.
Right.
Right?
I'm with you. And, one of the things I love about what you're doing, you're not just working off of one specialty.
Right.
I worked in the medical field for 26 years, and I respect any practitioner that takes time out of their life, 8, 10, 12 years to learn, a part of the body to see how they can help people get better. But one of the limitations, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that I see, is that sometimes you can spend so much on one part of the body that you forget the other parts are related. And so what I'm noticing about you is that you're able to kind of see what's related to the nervous system. The decision making that the bad decisions people make sometimes is due to bad health. From, let's say, you get a knock over the head, now you're not thinking properly, you make bad decisions.
Correct.
Or the food that you eat that can cause you to go through mood swings and things. And I'm seeing how you're relating, just one particular area that you've gotten into as a concentration, and you're like, dog, I'm seeing that there's some other things that can relate to this, and you're into the holistic part of a person.
And that is, I think, my secret sauce, because I try to get to the why.
Yes, sir.
Why do I have this problem?
Yes, sir.
Why do I have a headache? Is it dehydration?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a head bump? Is it a concussion? Is it a tumor? Is it a problem with the vertebrae in the back of your neck going over top of your head that is causing that? But it's interrelated, and Western medicine in the United States is the best in the world for trauma care.
Yes. Yes.
Unbelievable. I don't want to be anywhere else to break up, blah, 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 whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But once we get beyond that, it can be very symptom driven, and it can be very, as you said, one system, here's a medication to kind of reduce that symptom. Well, why is that symptom breaking?
Yes, sir.
Right? Why is that system not functioning right?
Right. Is there anything else you want to talk to us about? Because you have a lot of hidden skills and things that you do. Again, don't let the word chiropractor just limit the way you see the service. You have to look at where Dr. Baric is reaching out through his chiropractic service or through the My Brain Doctor service. But I'm sure there's some other things that you got going on.
So the big push that we're being drawn into is concussions.
Mm-hmm.
And is that the professional athlete or the 6-year-old who gets playing soccer and falls and gets a knee to the head?
Yes, sir.
Or the individual who slips in their shower? So TBI, traumatic brain injury concussions. I'm actually on the board of Brain Injury Association in North Carolina. And again, I'm certified in TBI, not only assessment, but treatment. It will decimate a person's health. And there was in a conference recently that close to 98% of all women in Colorado's jail system had a traumatic brain injury prior to that. Why? Because our brain is our operating system.
Yes, sir.
And when our operating system isn't working right, it just doesn't function well. And sadly, traumatic brain injury, that's a whole mess in itself. That's a whole topic in itself.
Yes, sir.
But we're finalizing a traumatic brain injury first aid kit. So somebody falls, they bumps their head, their child's in the parking lot, who knows, they fall from the swing, they get a soccer ball, a football, a cheerleading, whatever. If you take this rapidly, as quickly as you can after that traumatic brain injury, it neurologically and metabolically protects the brain from damage.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And I think it's a game changer in the world.
I agree.
Because I mean, well, why do you have a fire extinguisher in your house? Because you want to put a little fire out,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You don't want to, well, what a waste of money. Well, no, if you need it, it's life-changing.
Yes.
Because, hey, I had a fire and I put it out quickly, and yeah, I have a mess, but I have a little fire. I don't have a 911 fire trucks coming, throwing water on your roof and that's what happens in the same thing in traumatic brain injury. When the brain metabolically fails, they cannot maintain the pumps that keep it functioning correctly.
Yes.
And I love the city of New Orleans. If the pumps fail in New Orleans, it fills up like a bathtub, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
if those pumps fail through the lymphatic system, toxins build up, metabolic processes go to heck. And then as a result, we have long-term residuals.
Yes.
And what's one of the main long-term residuals of traumatic brain injury? The lateral prefrontal cortex gets damaged, concussion, anxiety, attention,
Yes.
mental issues, sleep issues.
Yes.
Well, hello. And here's the big thing with concussion, and this is a well-known in the community, but it is sadly it's in the research community, that you don't have one concussion. You have a cumulative lifestyle of concussions. Imagine you have a car.
Yes.
Well, and it's the exact age as you were. Well, and remember 20 years ago when I bent that fender and when I did this and I did that? So when you get a concussion, rarely people just work to get out of symptoms, but the brain is still functioning at a suboptimum level.
Yes.
And that is why when you have such a very simple head bump, but it might be your fifth, that's the one that pushes you over the edge. And now you lose your job, you get irritable, you start making poor decisions, you get depressed, your life goes sideways. And it wasn't that head bump, it was the cumulative of the prior ones that were just never healed correctly. So my vision, my mission, my passion is yes, the spine, yes, I want to help the brain work, But boy, if I can get a fire extinguisher in everybody's house and everybody's car,
Yes, sir.
when they're at a soccer game and somebody does have a concussion, does have a head bump, boom, you mix something up, you add water, you shake it, you drink it for the first few days.
Yes, sir.
What's that doing? That's putting an alternate energy source. That's putting the backup generator on in that brain.
Yes.
And as a result, we don't have the residuals. We don't have those long terms. Yeah, we have a mess from the fire extinguisher, but the house isn't on fire. We're not looking for another home.
Yes. I'm gonna tell you, after all of these years of working around physicians, and I've done a lot of studying on my own, I'm always amazed at what I learn more about the human body. The human body is one of the most complex organisms in the whole world.
Yes, ever invented.
Yes, from our intellect to our physical to the internal, I mean everything. So you've just given me a good Dr. Robert Baric 101 class today.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Can you tell us where you're located, how we can get in contact with you, and tell the public your website?
So I'm in Cary, North Carolina as a chiropractic office. And then also we have a neurofeedback office in Cary, but also in North Raleigh. And the best, so you can go to drbaric.com or you could go to mybraindr.com. But I'd love to see if we can help you or answer any questions. There's a lot of information on those websites for you. If you have any specific questions, you can always reach out to us. In the world of the neurofeedback, we do free consults where people can come in and just meet with me and tell me a little bit of their story. And the joy of it is if I can help you, great. And if I can't help you, I'm going to refer you to the right place. I'm really good at certain things. I'm not good at others. But that's why I work with a whole team of other providers to send you out and get you to the right place. That's all you want. You want to get to the destination.
That's it. Dr. Baric, thank you for your time today. Wish you well in everything, especially on this new project on the concussion protocol. I believe that's really going to help a lot of people. Yeah. Everybody, look, stay tuned. Another time, another channel, but definitely the right subject with the Spann Man Media. Thank you.